here. And that's my video. Okay, so what I actually want to do is I want to mute this because I don't want to hear that ugly sound for now. And I'm going to go and zoom in, and I want this to fade in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my video transitions. I'm going to go to dissolve. I'm going to put the cross dissolve on the edge of the clip. Okay, and as you can see, it's going to fade in. I'm going to show you guys a little trick. I'm going to delete that. If you actually right click on the edge of the clip and then you say apply default transition, that cross dissolve is going to automatically be put there. It's the same thing. Cool. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this text clip over here. I'm going to put a cross dissolve at the beginning. There we go. Apply the default transition at the beginning of that clip. The default transition is constant power for the audio and cross dissolve for the video, right? And so it basically puts it on both. I'm going to put a cross dissolve on the edge of this as well. Now I'm going to fade into this title, then fade out, and then fade into the video. Fade out of the title and fade into the video. It's pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a awesome song because I hate the in-camera audio. And I'm going to put that song on A2, the second audio track. So let's do that real quick. Okay, I have now gotten a song. I'm going to pick an in and an out point, and I'm going to bring that song down into A2 audio track. Perfect. Beautiful. Let's go and put a constant power transition on the edge of that music so it fades in. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And almost kind of hit those beats too. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go and I'm going to put a little fade right there. Let's take this constant power out because we're not even using this track. It's muted. So it really doesn't matter what transitions or effects we put on this audio. We're only listening to this track because if you remember, we've muted this track, A1, and the only other track with audio on it is A2. So we're hearing that track. Let's listen to it again. And watch out for this cross dissolve. Check that out. It's pretty cool, right? It's going to be a hard cut right there. Alright guys, that was the simplest video in the world. The last thing I think that we need to show you is how to export. Before we export, I'm just going to trim this clip a little bit. Bam. Let's go to the edge. Let's fade out appropriately. There we go. There we go. And what we got to do is we got to tell Premiere what part of the timeline that we want to export. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hold Shift down. And I'm going to put my playhead up against, holding Shift down basically allows the playhead to snap to the edge of whatever clip that you want it to snap against. So I'm going to do I for my endpoint. I'm going to go to the edge of the edit and click O while holding Shift down. And now I have my endpoint and my outpoint enveloping just the part of the timeline that I want to export, which is just of the clips. So now I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Export. I'm going to go to Media. And oh my goodness, this looks so confusing, right? You want to make sure that your source range is sequenced in and out so that you are only exporting between in and out. And then we have a few different options. It's easier than you think. And I'm not going to go crazy in depth because that's going to be for another video. But what you got to realize is you're probably going to want to use a codec that's H.264. H.264 is a codec. A codec is basically telling Premiere the amount of compression that you want it to do on your video clip. If you compress a clip too much, it's going to be nice and small and easy to upload to the internet, but it's not going to have a lot of information, and so it's not going to look as good. If you don't compress it enough, it's going to be a lot bigger of a clip. It's going to be a lot harder to upload because it's going to be like, something like 5-6 gigs or 10 gigs or something crazy big. You will have a lot more information though, so the video quality will be better. H.264 will do all the math for you. So as far as format is determining the codec that you're going to be using to export out. Just go to H.264 always. And then after that, don't worry about preset. Then go to the output name. You're going to choose, let's just put it on our desktop for now. Don't ever do that usually. You want to organize your files on a hard drive, external hard drive usually. We're going to name it test just because we're not that creative. We're going to go do save. And now you want to make sure that you're exporting both your video and exporting both your audio. And then we're going to go down to here. And you're going to, actually before you do that, realize that your output name is test. It automatically makes it an MP4 file that you're exporting. That's just what Premiere does when you choose an H.264 codec. The MP4 ending is something called a container. It really doesn't mean a lot, and I'm not going to go into it, but just know that you want to use an MP4 container in an H.264 codec, usually 90% of the time when you're exporting out of Premiere. You're going to go into the video tab. Don't worry about any of these other tabs yet, and you're going to just make sure your width and your height are correct and match your video clip. As you know, this clip was a 1920 by 1080 clip, so it's perfect. If this is wrong, then you just unclick this check, and you can change it. Okay. And then you're going to scroll down, make sure your frame rate is the same as your clip, 24 frames per second. If it's not, then you change it. But basically, your export settings are going to usually always match your sequence settings. And at the beginning, you realized you made sure that your sequence settings matched your clip settings. So it's most likely that your export settings are going to be just fine, and you don't really have to change much as long as you do exactly what I'm saying. You don't really need to actually change any of these grayed out settings usually. Usually you are A-OK. If you are down for it, you can do render at maximum depth. It'll take a little bit longer to render, but it may be worth it if you have the extra time and if you have a powerful computer. Another thing that you can do as far as bitrate is you can choose to do 2-pass. That will just make the video quality be better as far as the compression process that it uses. Target bitrate, I usually leave mine at 10. I leave my maximum bitrate at 12. Everything else, don't really worry about. As far as audio, just kind of leave it on its default settings. I use it on, right now it's on AAC. That's going to be perfect. Bit sample rate, 48,000 hertz is perfect. Use the AAC codec, like I said before. Use stereo as far as the channels go, and you should be great. After that, don't really worry about anything else, guys, and just click export. And voila, what you've done is you've taken a bunch of clips, you've put them in Premiere, you've edited them in the timeline, and then you have completed your edit and you've exported them out of Premiere.